Hello, everyone. Welcome to the unofficial Venery podcast. We're going to chat with our amazing guest, Ashleigh, today. We're going to talk about the Elk Clinic, all things elk hunting. But before we dive in, let's just do some quick intros, and we will start with Ashleigh.
My name's Ashleigh. I am how much do you want to know about me? I am 41. I'm a Virgo. I live in Montana. I'm a beginner hunter. My gateway drug was bird hunting because I have 2 German short hairs and really loved being out there and watching the dogs work, and then was able to tag along as like support crew, which then evolved into more dog sitting. And I found that I really wanted to be a bigger part of the experience, but also very aware of some knowledge gaps in attempting to enter that world. So that's how I found Venery, and I went to Elk Clinic, and then I did turkey tactics, and here I am today, a hunter, which feels wild to say, but it is true. Be brave.
I love it. All right, we'll segue on the Venery note over to Alex, my co-host of today's episode.
Yeah, hi everyone. I am Alex Stockman, the founder of Venery, which is a women's hunting school based out of Missoula, Montana, and we provide education, mentorship, and community for women exploring the world of hunting. And I've been hunting. I'm an adult onset hunter. I've been hunting since my mid-20s, but post-college, and want to provide educational and experiential learning opportunities for more women in the world. And that's me.
And then last but not least, I'm Draya. I'm the owner of What's Your Wild and also independent contractor for Venery. So Alex and I have been working together for quite some time now through education, bringing women together. And so I thought it'd be great to have Ashleigh on today to talk about Elk Clinic and her experience with elk hunting, because I mean, I was guiding in rifle season and I got that letter from you, that email, and I was just like crying because it was so powerful. And I was like, I can't believe that just a couple months ago, she was at Elk Clinic, like learning how to call. We were making noises with the call, and we were teaching you how to carry weight in your pack and all the things. And there you were, and you experienced it. And it was so profound. So let's start in the beginning. So you did a little intro, actually, but like, how did you discover Venery? So tell us about that first.
Okay. It was kind of by chance, fortuitous chance, but I have one of my very good friends is very big into bird hunting, and so she had suggested looking into some of her upland events for dog training and like wing shooting clinics. And so I just happened to be on the interwebs and could not for the life of me remember the name, and I was just looking up women's hunting like organizations, and so I found her upland, I found Artemis, and then I found Venery, and I was just looking into all of them to see what they'd offered, because I was only like second season into really bird hunting, which was really awesome, and then had by proxy kind of been around some elk hunters but had never really dabbled in that. And when I found Venery's website, I was looking at all the events, and I really was like so drawn in about like the very like women's focused mission, and really it seemed very open and welcoming, and just like the right type of environment to put myself out there to try to learn, because I think it's like people have hunting is a very personal experience. How you experience hunting, how you experience the land is a very personal experience. And the vibe that I got just from the website was very much like, this is open, we'll meet you where you're at. Like there's no expectations. And I saw Elk Clinic still have some spots, and I could get that time off of work, and I signed up.
Did it feel like making that drive and then taking that dirt road drive along the stunning mountain views there in Livingston to the cabin? What were some of the feelings that were kind of you were experiencing leading up to that?
I was definitely nervous, more just like not knowing what to expect, not wanting to put an expectation on it per se, but then also just like, I think there's not the fear, but the hesitation of like, what is this space going to be like when I step into it? Is it going to be something that is welcoming? Is it going to be something that has, sometimes I don't want to say like I basically didn't want to show up and there was like a pretense, and it was like a pretense, and this was set, and like, would I fit in there or not? So I was very, very nervous, but also like really excited because I had like a million questions, and the whole like, once I got there and met the girls, and then it was like it just took the edge off immediately. And as we were driving to the cabin, it was just like so beautiful. I mean, it was like pronghorn here and mule deer and like deer there, maybe a bear up there, and so it was just like, it really just set the stage of like, this is about to be a truly like really cool, immersive, wild experience. Yeah. So I had the jitters out by the time we got there.
Yeah, it's I feel like those are normal, and before a lot of those events too, it's always that unknown of like, is the group gonna get along? Is everyone, is it gonna run smooth? But knock on wood, we've been really lucky with all of the events that I have been included in with Venery, where it's just everything runs smooth. It's authentic women who are getting together, who want to connect, who want to learn, who aren't scared to ask the questions.
Yes.
And we had a smaller group, but it was really great because I feel like we were able to dive in and really give that like immersive experience to each participant. So talk a little bit about your experience with the elk. Obviously you showed up and you had never hunted elk before, but that you wanted to get into. I remember you just had so many different questions and you wanted to learn how to call, and I loved the eagerness of like, teach me the ways. Alex, you have a thought?
Yeah, just want to jump in for a second and say there is something magical around those registrations, and it has happened that the right group of women show up. Right. It's not something that we don't take applications, and it's not something that we are selective about. People are self-selecting, and the right people show up each and every time that create the community. And it is something that is so magical. And Ashleigh, thanks for recognizing that. And it doesn't happen by any one person's doing. It's serendipitous. And I love that. You don't know who's going to be there, and you don't know how it's going to all work out, but it does. And every time it's very moving and very gratifying.
Yeah. And for me, like the moment everything kind of clicked was that honestly, the first journal prompt, and when people were responding and you just like, you felt like, okay, everybody here is showing up as they are. Like, this is genuine. This is authentic. There's no ego. We're just like entering into this space, like curious and vulnerable. And it just felt like it really set the stage for everything else to go well.
Yeah, no, I love that we incorporated the journal prompts this last year. That was something new. Because there's something to be said about, yes, there's so much education around it, and it's the camaraderie, but it's also the like, let's look inward, right? Why are we here? What are some emotions that came up for us today? I feel like it forces us to like be a little bit more present.
Go. As a new elk hunter, what are your values?
Okay. Well, as a person, lifelong learning is one of my big ones, but as a new elk hunter, integrity, compassion for myself, presence, patience, and vulnerability. Remember being really reassured that everybody didn't say necessarily the same thing, but had kind of the same, just like openness to the experience. And it was nice because at that moment was like, okay, there are no expectations. Like, we're all just here to see where it takes us. And and it was also interesting because I felt like the whole experience was much more comprehensive than I think maybe looking at hunting from the outside. Like I think I came in kind of oversimplifying some of it. And then it was like this very holistic approach. And it was really nice because everybody there in some way had some type of skill already in their set that would lend to them, building upon that. It wasn't, like, I think the workshop did a really great job of recognizing, like, yeah, I don't know how to call, like, I don't know so many things, but at baseline, I do have this, which is part of the tool set that I'm going to need. And so it made the whole thing, to approach it that way, I think much less intimidating, because it allowed a little bit of confidence of like, okay, I know something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So dive into, it doesn't have to be anything in specific about the Elk Clinic, but maybe some of the takeaways, some things you learned, the experience overall. Just talk a little bit about, like, personally what you took away from that experience.
Okay. Well, it was really fun to start. Like, it was so fun, just like, yes, to be in an educational environment that was set up really well, but also just the, like, moments of laughter and the joy. Like, it was serious without taking itself too seriously, if that makes sense. But I still learned so much. Like, the field time to me was just as fun as, like, the Riverside snack time and the evening kind of activities and trivia. But I like everything kind of brought it back to kind of the focus as to why we were there. And I think, let's see, my biggest takeaways, I think, were having this appreciation of that it's actually so much more about what goes on before you go out to hunt, as opposed to just the experience of the hunt itself.
Mm-hmm.
E-scouting, and it's months of prepping, and it's looking at weather patterns and how that could affect, like, mating seasons and timing and the moon, and is that a thing? And so much of it was like, you really do have to start prepping for next season, like, far before it begins. And a lot of, like, being ready in the field to anticipate all these things that could potentially go wrong has a lot more to do with, like, anticipation and backup plans and, like, thinking it through before you actually get out there, than just kind of winging it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a ton of education and preparedness that you were talking about that a person has to have, but it is also, I think, very intimidating for a lot of people who are getting into hunting, being like, I have to learn this and I have to learn this and I have to be really good at this, versus having a baseline, which is exactly what the Elk Clinic provides. It's 3-4 days of education, boots on the ground, field experience. Be like, this is what a rub looks like. This is what an old pile of scat looks like. Ooh, this is a game trail. You see how the game trail is going up the hill. Let's set up a trail camera. These sort of things where it's like, all right, let's instill that confidence. Let's give them that baseline education. It's up to the participant to go out and really learn to dive into e-scout. I'd love to do, like, an e-scouting, like, specific navigation class. I think that would be so fun, because it took me a long time to get really confident looking at a map and to be able to go out and not have to rely on my Onyx to, like, get somewhere. When I first started solo hunting, it was like I had a track, and I was always tracking because I was so scared I was going to get lost or be able to get back to camp, or to be able to navigate confidently. And now it's like I go out and very rarely do I even put my track on.
Yeah.
And things like that. And I loved that you made the point of how there was a lot of laughter, and it wasn't, like, serious, but it was serious. I think a lot of people get so focused on, like, the hunt, and they get so serious, versus, like, you got to have fun. You got to, like, keep it lighthearted. And I think I get that from my dad, because he always makes jokes when we're out there, and he's trying to, like, keep it lighthearted, because if you're just, like, so serious when you're out there, like, oh, I've got to, like, I'm on this trail, I got to go, you're going to miss all the other little subtle details.
Yeah. Yeah. And I really appreciated, like, you guys could have spent all weekend on one thing. Like, you could have done this one thing in 4 days, but but it like everybody, I think for me, I felt like I left there with enough of just the door has been slightly opened to not be afraid to go into that door on my own, to like seek out questions that I had, to be able to like the resources you guys provided for us to just use on our own, like all those resources of just knowing where to find it, you know, and then from there really getting to do like a deeper dive. But even like the simulated hunt was really fun, and took away from that, and just like these little things that until you're actually doing them, you just wouldn't think about them. And for me, like, I guess it just, like, I came home and felt like I was more ready to participate in the way that I like to build my approach, I guess. Like I was not going straight from that to being like, this is my season to pull the trigger. It was more like, I'm going to keep building on these skills because to me, I really want to understand and deep dive. And that's how I, like, maybe in 2 years I'll be ready, or 3 years I'll be ready to take the shot. But like this year, this is how I want to show up and be able to participate in the experience, and be able to do that like well in a way that like aligns with how I value being out there.
That's kind of leading us into the future there, Ashleigh, because that's not necessarily what happened in your season. You well, in the sense that you were prepared and you did go out and you did have an elk hunt and utilize the information from Elk Clinic. Maybe take us into what happened once you got home, because you have a partner. And you were ready to start hunting after the Elk Clinic to build on the skills that you learned, but you just said, I wasn't ready to pull the trigger. How did that unfold for you as your elk season started?
Oh, okay. Well, I should probably tell you that my partner and I are both very type A. So like, while I am going to do the deep dive on, you know, the e-scout, I got that Elk Institute thing you recommended, and I was watching all the videos about, like, I was taking notes, like I had a whole like Word document set up and an outline, and because this is my personality. And Mark, my husband, had done the same thing, but like from the ballistics side. And so he was like deep diving all the ballistics and like MOA and all this stuff. So I felt like we were doing a lot of things together, like e-scouting. Like we would sit down and look at places we could potentially go. We were scouting. We even took a couple of weekends before archery season started to like go out and just scout areas and like look for sign and kind of put some of those things to practice. And then kind of decided upon, like, when we had a couple areas, and then we were like looking at weather and seeing like what would potentially work out. But each of us was like knowing, okay, this is my primary role where I need to be able to show up for the team, and this is where he's going to show up for the team. And so it was really empowering for me to come off of Elk Clinic and then to be at the level where I could show up in the field as like a useful asset and a true like partner in the field. But that for me was the biggest thing, because I felt like he could tell I was taking it seriously, and I knew he was taking his role seriously. And so when we got in the field, like, it just worked. Like, we trusted each other to show up and do our thing. And like, we knew it was going to be incredibly difficult. And like, you know, the attitude was right. The energy was right. And I definitely, I really valued like being able to show up and feel like I was an equal participant, even if I was like that my role was equally as important in the success that we were able to achieve, without being the one that, you know, pulled the trigger.
Yeah, but you were a very vital part of that hunt. Like, it was definitely team effort. So take us to the hunt. Tell us about it.
You guys, it was one. Why did I bring a book? Okay, that was weight I didn't need to carry. I was like imagining, I think I don't know what I was expecting, but I imagined, like, from, you know, all this stuff I had watched or listened to, that there was like a morning period and then potentially some downtime. Yeah, the book did not get opened, but so we didn't draw any tags. We were like on public lands, you know, with a lot of other people. But we got out the night before and like set up a camp, and then had like the worst classic Montana wind all night that you can imagine. Like, the tent collapsed 4 times. It was a lot of not sleeping. I did invest in a new sleeping bag, so I was warm, but I was not actually sleeping in it because the wind was just raging, as it does, as we all know that it does. So we just like the morning of opening arrival, we were up at like 4 a.m. When the tent collapsed for the 4th time, we were like, this is dumb. Let's just get up. So we actually like broke down our little backpack setup, thinking like, if it's like this again tonight, we'll just move so we can try to sleep. We hiked, like we had kind of the night before got in and enough time to scout a little bit and had spotted some elk, had spotted a lot of other hunters. And so we kind of had an idea where the players were on the chessboard, I guess. And so we got up and hiked up to kind of this ridge and just sat in the dark and had some coffee and then waited for sunrise. And we were, it was interesting because like what we had seen the night before, once we got over there, as the sun was coming up, we were like, oh, this isn't the view we thought we were going to have. So, we're making like real-time decisions, like looking at, and we had planned out like, okay, this is going to be our route if this doesn't work. And the sun's coming up and like we get a vantage and then, oh, there's some elk down there and it's not shooting light yet. And so we, marked them and we're kind of trying to like work our way down there. And then I don't know, it's probably like 2 minutes after shooting light and we just hear like 3 shots go off right away.
Always the case, right? And you, that preparedness and all the preparations, and then a dog goes, barks, and you're like, where'd the dog come from? Or a train or other hunters. Yeah. And I think that's pretty typical of hunting public land, but you had a plan.
Yeah. And so we're like, okay, like, let's keep moving over here. Cause we had looked for travel corridors based on the, education, e-scouting and everything. So we kind of moved around and we were glassing and we could see elk. But they're always, it's like turkey hunting. They're always on private. When you see it, you're like, can't go over there. Or other animals. It's like they have the 6th sense. But we were just like making notes, like there's nothing close. And so we had gotten to this place and we were like, this is a good spot to stop. Like, let's eat breakfast. It's now an hour past sunrise and we hadn't eaten anything yet. And so I made like an adult healthy decision, eat some Cheez-Its for breakfast. This is not sponsored by Cheez-It, by the way, but we would be interested. Cheez-It, reach out. But I like sat down, like packs are off, like, Mark's like probably 10 yards to my right, just kind of looking, taking in this vantage that we had picked. I'm like handful of Cheez-Its going up and I look across because we were up kind of a dip and like across the hillside, there is an elk. There is a large bull elk. And I was like, that is legal as a beagle. Like that thing is, there's no doubt in my mind. And so I just was trying to be stealthy and the Cheez-Its hit the deck and I was like, and I'm like trying to whisper yell and he comes over and I'm like, I said some adult words and then I was like, get your gun, get ready, get your gun. And at this point, like I'm looking, like I'm like, okay, look, because he's moving. And he had stopped briefly and kind of like looked in our direction, but I don't think he could see us because we were pretty low and there's a tree in front of us. And but sat still, like, and I was like communicating. So I was like, listen, he's on this trajectory. He's going to go behind these trees. If he comes out, that right there, that spot is going to be your only shooting lane for him. Cause it was all like a treed hillside. And so I'm like watching the elk, but then I look ahead and I bought the binoculars with the rangefinder and I highly recommend, and they were great. And, but I ranged basically a tree that was in that gap. And I just said, hey, it's like 300 yards. I think I said like 285, but round it. So he was like setting up and like, I don't know, doing whatever he has to do with the little gadgets. I haven't learned that part yet, guys. And he comes out, while he's walking by in the trees, I look over and he's still like getting the bipod out. I'm like, what are you doing? Come on, like, what are you doing? And I'm like, wait, that's not helping. It's not helping. It's not helping. Cause I'm like very nervous. And then I was like, okay, just watch. And so he comes out and I'm like, okay, Mark, he's out. Like, and I was like, he's tushed to us. Cause he of course starts walking up and then he stops and he looks back and it's like the perfect quartering away position. It felt like he stood there for, 7 seconds or whatever. But in that time, like I just was looking, and then I could tell, like I was like anticipating the shot. And so I had my finger up on my ear, and I don't even think I would have heard it because I was so like focused, but I just did this. And Mark took a shot, and then I was like back up there, and I was like, I don't know how to tell, like what it's like a tiny hole. Like, how do you tell from this far away? Like, and then he like didn't walk or run. He just fell over. And I was like, what? And that was wild because, that, I don't know, I was expecting him to like, run off or move or something. And I was like, so, and then at that moment, like he fell over, he kind of made this like death rattle, and I was like, ooh. But we just looked at each other, and like our eyes were huge. It was like, did that just really happen? Like, did that just happen? And it was almost like looking around, waiting for someone else to like stand up, like behind you. Cause you're like, oh my God.
I got him.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, did that really just happen? And so then it was kind of hilarious because everybody gave us very well-meaning advice, but like all the advice comes flooding in. And so I'm like, okay, we gotta drink some water. We gotta get some food. And he's like, we should make a fire. And I'm like, it's 50 degrees. I don't know if we need to do that. But we just started saying all these things that people had told us. And then I was like, wait, put a timer on. Like Mark was like, set a timer. And so we set a timer because we're like, first and foremost, we're so excited. We're ready. We're like, oh, he's down. We'll just go. And like, no. So we set a timer. We ate a couple more Cheez-Its. I like got out and marked where I thought he was based on where we were at. And then the minute that timer was like 0, we were like straight up, like dropped down straight up the hillside, and we found him, and he was down, obviously. But it was a very surreal moment of like, okay, this did happen. Like this has happened. And I don't know if everybody feels like that the first time, but it was such an incredible, like it all came together moment, and then to be like that close, like, I like dropped down and was just like admiring this animal, and like, this is incredible. And like, I did thank it for its sacrifice, but then we were like, oh my God, we have to field dress this thing. And, we had watched a lot of videos, but it's a lot harder.
Can I pause you right there? Because I think that I've hunted for 20 plus years, and I know Draya's hunted her entire life. Yeah. And I think we still experience those surreal moments of, oh my gosh, I actually got that 100%. Thing. My bullet hit where I was aiming. I actually found the animal. And I don't want that feeling to ever end, of that, the excitement, that anticipation, and then the appreciation of that hunt and harvest as well, right? One, I always want to continue learning, but 2, just that the adrenaline and excitement in that, like if that ever goes away, hunting won't be the same for me. I want to continue to experience it. And Draya, I think you have that same feeling too.
I mean, that's what keeps us going back, right? Yeah. And I know the feeling because I've experienced it guiding. We'll take a shot or something, and it's like you look around, like almost expecting, like, wait, did somebody else take that shot? But it's like, no, this happens. So yeah, those experiences that you had, we can relate with that. I want to hear about your guys' pack out. What are the chances that on public land, opening day of rifle season, you have this? Like, it's such a small percentage of people in Montana.
And both of you being brand new elk hunters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, this was like his 3rd or 4th year in the field, but he had gone out with like friends and learned, and like had been out kind of doing the work, but also like, I mean, and he already had a wealth of knowledge just from those experiences in terms of like his insight that he, in the planning process, we were able to discuss. But it was amazing, like for us, one, we had a mom come and watch our fur kids so we could go together, because a lot of times it would be like he was out and I was with the dogs, or I'd go out with him, but it would be such a short, like I couldn't really get the like dive in deep with him. The pack out was really intense. Like, one, we realized, like, as we were excited, we hiked, like, you know, straight up this hillside to get to this thing, and we were like, we are about a little over a mile from our camp, but we're a good, like, I don't know, 150 yards up to this like gully, and then we're probably 800 yards up the other side to our camp at Ridge, or below Ridge, I guess. We don't have llamas or horses or alpacas or goats. We saw, like, I've seen all these awesome things that people have in the field. And it was a non-motorized area. So we had ridden our fat bikes. We had bike packed in to set up our camp. So we field dressed this thing, and it was really awesome. But you know, you watch the videos, and a video is like 20 minutes long. And it's like, it is so much longer than that. Like, it's hard, and you just like don't have the appreciation for how difficult it is, and like really wanting to honor the animal and harvest all the meat. So we took a long time to field dress it. And then it took us like 8 hours the rest of the day to make all the trips to hike it all back up to camp. And as
it's important to note, though, the meticulousness that you utilized in field dressing this, or processing the animal, because of the skills. And this goes back to what you were saying about the skills that you bring to camp, that you brought to the Elk Clinic, or that you brought out in the field with you. You and Mark have a skill set. Just mention that for a minute. Like, what is your skill set going into this and butchering this animal?
Okay, well, he's a surgeon, and I am also a physician. And so the anatomy background was there, and there was also this, like, you know, a little bit of like a dissection technique, and we were being very like I remember one point being like, that's a great fascia dissection, like, while we were field dressing it. And I was like, oh my God, I said that. But I was like, yeah, it's just a great, because we were really, you know, we had watched all these videos, and we were really trying to be thoughtful about like preserving the meat and you know, finding all the pieces. And it was a little bit different in the field than it is on the videos. And we did not, you know, later people were like, well, did you take the bone out in the field? And we did not. We had a whole, like, once we got home, the kitchen island became the lab, and we were like doing our own like cutting down and processing and stuff there. But it was definitely a funny, because like you see people do it really quickly, and like we were moving, but we were like, there was still a level of like, you know, I was like retracting, and he's like cutting fascia, and I'm like retracting, and it felt, I was like, I'm back in med school, holding things all day. But he did a great job, and yeah, we got a ton, like we had a lot of meat to carry up to camp. And then things got a little more complicated because the weather moved in again that night. And so we kind of made the executive decision to go back out to the camper, and like we actually like put the meat all in the tent because it was supposed to snow and there was wind. And we were like, well, if it's snowing, it's going to be fine. It's like a fridge. And so we had it hanging all day. And then we had like built little props in the tent and like laid it all out so it was getting air, and then staked the tent. And then we were like, we have to sleep well because we have to get this thing out tomorrow. And like from camp out was like several miles. And so we knew that trip, we were going to have to make multiple trips. And it would be a combination of being able to, yes, use the bikes for some of it, but also just do a lot of hiking still. So we like left everything and went out, and we did take some stuff with us the first night, like what we could, but had some gear, technical failures that we like. Elk weighs a lot and not necessarily as much as like a standard like bike pack pouch will carry for like lightweight bike packing. So we broke several things on the way out, but we made it out. And the next morning we were pretty beat up, but we woke up and we like were able, one, to sleep better in the camper, but two, we were just like, let's go get him. Like we were so motivated. We were like, let's go get him. And it still took us, like, I think we were back out there like a little after 9 a.m. We took a slow start, but it still took us till 8 p.m. that night to do all the trips. And we went in fully all the way together and then came out part of the way. And then I was making like relay trips to the camper, and he was going back up to like camp. And so we were doing a little bit of a shuttle kind of system, but it still took us a really long time. And it was pretty funny because being in public lands, like there were people out there with horses and some goat, like a goat. I didn't know that was a thing, but they weren't like cute, fun yoga goats. They were like working goats, but they were really sweet because they were just like, wow, you guys are working so hard. Like, good for you. Like,
Did you fuel yourself a little different that second day and not just eat cheeses for breakfast?
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So the day before I made terrible choices. Like I packed like I was on a backpacking trip, just living my best. I ate like Pop-Tarts during my breaks, and they were delicious. They were good for my mental state because it was like a nice little sugar rush. But the next day it was like, bring a sandwich, bring some PBJs, bring some cheese, like bring some real food that's going to put good fuel in. And it was like, it was cool. Cause even like when I was coming in for like what I thought and hoped would be the last trip, like I saw this massive bull moose and I was like, it was just such a cool to be out there. And like that last trip out when we were both coming out together, as we were getting like, as I knew just from landmarks that we were getting closer, I was just like, and I was yelling out loud and to the world of nature. Yeah. And it was just really like, it was really cool. And we, it was just, yeah. And we had set up a base camp and there were other people with campers and stuff there. Cause like, public land, you're always going to run into other hunters. Like you're not avoiding it. But they were like, it was such a cool community. They would come over and like talk to, to Mark and like share stories and experience. And that was like, it was really positive. Cause like, obviously when there's a lot of pressure, you are competing with people, like, to get there, there's that emphasis of like, there's that little component of stress, but like back at camp, it just, and even when we were coming out, like, and going in, like other people who were going in were also, it was still like the camaraderie and just the stoke to be out there was really awesome. But it was really hard. And my body, I felt all 41 years of my life at that moment.
If you could wrap up that experience in one word, I feel like this is a very tough question on the spot, but if you could wrap up that hunt in one word, like what's that word that comes to you?
The whole hunt? The whole hunt.
Mm-hmm.
Like several words are popping up right now because
well, let's just hear. It doesn't have to be one then. Let's hear some words, several words. What are they?
Overall, it was just incredible because while it is the most like it just was all consuming, like it was a sense of like purpose and presence that I don't think you can like create doing anything else. Mm-hmm. Like when you're out there and like even when before you harvest an animal, like when you're out there and you're present and you're watching the land, you're watching the weather, you're watching what other people are like, you're just so connected. And then when you like, after like, we were like, okay, like this has now happened. The sense of like purpose and drive that you feel to harvest that meat well, to honor that animal, to do the pack out. Like it was so incredibly physically demanding, but there was just this unspoken, like nobody, not one of us said that sucked until we were done. Yeah. Like you just kept it going. I mean, there was a point where I was like hallucinating on the first day. Hallucination was my nutrition and hydration choices. Okay. But it was one of those things where just like, even that level of fatigue and exhaustion, like never at any point were we like, okay, this is getting dangerous for us. But we were like, this is our limit for the day. We have to be done. But like, even all the pain of the next morning of like, just my body was tired and I'm sore and I worked really hard. Nothing was going to stop us from going back in and getting that like meat out, like the idea of like, even asking like for help was just like, this is ours, like this is ours to do. And like, we were just so dialed for that. And I don't know how like, I understand now why people, this is what they like live for, right? Like their whole year is planned around this experience, because you just cannot recreate these feelings that you have anywhere else. I don't know, just like how much work you're putting into it, and the persistence and the resilience that it requires. I mean, I think it teaches you a lot about, like, it's definitely like the biggest challenge. Like, you are your biggest challenge out there. I mean, we were already like driving home, we were like, here's what we're going to do different next year. Here's how we're going to train better. Like, here's how we're not going to bring books in, because that's unnecessary weight. But also this awareness too, of like, this experience is not guaranteed, right? Like, that was a super incredible experience to share. It would be incredible to have it on my own, but it was incredible to also share it with like your person, or even with like someone who just gets it that way, like who has the same level of just reverence and persistence that you do, like to just whoop, that all came together. And to like appreciate, like, that might not happen again for 4 or 5 years.
Yeah. And the next time it happens, it's going to be different, right? Because it's the evolution you are having as hunters. So it might throw you a total different card, but it's going to be different. There's always a commonality, right? Like the common denominator to the hunts, the presence, the perseverance, the mental toughness, the attitude, the mindset, all those things. And sometimes the mindset will waver. Some will be more challenging or harder or quicker. That might happen quicker, or things like that. But I think that's one of the great things is the experience. You never know how it's going to unfold until it unfolds.
Yeah.
So with that being said, I want to kind of start wrapping this up here a little bit.
I could just talk about this.
Too long. There's a lot of women's groups out there. There's a lot of opportunities, which is amazing. A lot of opportunities for women to go and attend different events and learn about all these different facets of hunting, topics of hunting. My question to you is, why should a woman choose the Elk Clinic for Venery? Like, what is it about that experience that they should pick this event, this opportunity out of maybe 15 others?
Okay. Well, first, if watermelon margaritas are your thing, highly recommend. 2, they're one of my things. But 2, I mean, I think overall for me, it was the total experience. Like, it resonated with me in a way that when I left, I was like, that is exactly what I didn't know I needed, but was hoping for, like, just because I appreciated the introduction, yes, of the vast amount of knowledge and skills and factors to consider. But also I felt like there was a really healthy acknowledgement of the emotions that go into it, and like the awareness of like when you guys picked up sandbags for our blood trail, and we were like carrying sandbags down this hill, like it was just this whole, it was the whole thing put together. I mean, it was I don't know, I just felt like everything translated really well, from the education at the cabin to like the field work, but then also the time that was spent just acknowledging that like we're humans showing up in this experience, and like, what is this feeling like for you? And I think, for me, I left with such a strong sense of like community, like continued to text with the girls, like we all checked in on each other during hunting season. Like when I got back, I was like, oh my God, I have to email Draya and Alex. They have to hear this story. Like this is it. Like, I hope they realize like that this opened the door for me to be able to then have this type of experience, like it gave me the ability to recognize, to know what I don't know, to know what, like where my strengths can serve me, where I need to like focus a lot more work. But also just this level of like, however you want to show up in the experience is the point, right? Like, it's what you want and need to get out of it. It doesn't have to be about the shot. It doesn't have to be about, the kill per se. Like it was for me, like so much more leading up to that. And I just felt like the focus at Venery was on the things that really make hunting and especially hunting as a woman, like that just truly incredible life-changing experience. Like the focus was not on the outcome or the expectation or the comparison. It was like, we see you as a person. Here's how you're going to and here's your ways that you can show up and do this and make it your own.
I love that.
That's so beautiful, Ashleigh.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think that one of the things you said just in having different roles, like you don't necessarily appreciate that there are different roles that you can play in the hunting process, and how important all those roles are.
Right.
In spotting, in the stalking, in the blood trailing, and you didn't have to necessarily blood trail the elk that you and Mark shot, but you're part of the process of the whole hunt. And in my family, we talk about I hunt, we hunt, because they are also part of my process. So even the woman that you had pet sitting for you, right, taking care of, is part of the hunt, because they're part of the team that allows you to do the thing. And so just like the instruction and the education that you got, we are part of your team, and that does build the community, and sharing it with the other women that were part of it. We all feel your success and can celebrate that as a part of your team, even though, like, I know Draya and I, when we received your email message, we were both like, crying and joyful and ecstatic all at the same time, because it's part of the experience and part of the community that supports you on this journey. So I'm honored to be and to have been a part of this, as well as having Draya and her superb instruction and skills that she brings to the table as one of the Elk Clinic instructors. Just her years of experience in being with elk, harvesting elk, preparing all the students through that education piece of it, right? Like, it's not just about the book knowledge, but because of our experiential learning, getting you those hands-on, and they might not, they might be easier than when you're in the field doing it, but it's like, oh, I can anticipate what's coming next.
Yeah. One last question, Ashleigh. So here in the Elk Clinic, when we did that mock hunt, and Alex and I were holding back, and you guys were going, and you had spotted the elk, and you were trying to figure out how to get to the elk, and you guys were just going so slow. And Alex and I were sitting there like, come on, let's go. He's getting away. Come on. And then all of a sudden I just came like running by you guys. I'm like, come on, we got to get on him. And we just we put it into 4-wheel drive, and we cruised down, and we snuck up that goalie. And I remember like my heart was going because we were moving, and I was like, yeah, I feel like I'm like guided, let's show them. Sometimes we have to have that assertiveness. And it kind of took you guys all by surprise. But after that mock hunt was said and done, all of you guys said like, wow, that actually was something that was really helpful. Do you feel like that experience in the mock hunt kind of helped prepare you for the real hunt because of that sort of like on the fly, like, oh, we got to do this, we got to go sort of situation?
Yeah, because I feel like, cool if you can like watch one come and have all the time in the world to plan this like perfect shot, perfect moment, it just doesn't happen like that, right? Like, especially on public lands, you've got other people, you've got pressure, they're constantly like getting pushed and moving, and so that was like very helpful, because in that moment, like when we heard those shots, we were like, not staying here, let's go, like we got to keep moving. Like there was no, I think we had a lot of like make the right choice at the clinic. We were like, okay, we got to do the right, like this is a test, like let's get this right. And then you just realize like the whole field experience, like the hunt is a test in itself, but like it's not about getting it right. It's about like making decisions in real time with the information you have to the best of your ability, and letting go of that idea of like the perfect hunt, the ideal, like this is the experience I want. And yeah, like when I saw it, like we were totally not prepared in that moment. Like shit was everywhere, or stuff was everywhere, packs are on the ground. It's like, but I felt like that experience in the Elk Clinic, because it was like, this has to happen. And each of us were like, these are our roles. It was like, I could do my part while he was doing his part. And then it just happened to come together and work out. And that was like when we were all contemplating and planning and doing these things. And then it was like, no, we just got to go. And like, I'm going to do this, and then you're going to do this, and you're going to do this. And that to me was more like the real hunt. Cause like, it's probably not super realistic that you are like, I'm going to sit here for 2 hours and the perfect shot is going to just come my way.
Right.
Like not happening. And so it felt like very, like kind of not fly by the seat of your pants, because there's still intention to it, but it was kind of just like, the animals are going to be moving constantly. Like we have to keep pace with that and understand that like, this isn't a, like a stationary thing that we're dealing with. So I did feel like that was really helpful. And it's funny because we tell people the story and they're like, oh, that's always how it happens. You're just not prepared. And then here it comes. And it's like 9 times out of 10 how it's going to happen. And so I felt like, yeah, when you like turned it up a notch and we were all like, oh, what do we do? Like, let's just go. It was very much like, okay, like we can't sit here all day and like, this isn't like a philosophical, waxing and waning about the prospects of this. And, but then it was also, I will never forget when you were like, you just blew your hunt. We were all like, no,
I'm taking charge. I know. I remember someone being like, well, what if the elk's not, hypothetically, what if the elk isn't there when we get there? And I'm like, well, then it's not. But like, you have to take initiative and know when to like change something up. Whatever you're doing is not working. If it's not there when we get there, at least we tried. Right.
Yeah.
And I feel like that sort of simulation that we had was an exact representation of like that bull came out. You were eating Cheez-Its. You guys were separated. You were trying to communicate with him. Now he's setting up his gun. You're watching him through the binos. There's all this noise, all this chaos going on versus like trying to picture it perfectly in your mind. We're going to sit on this ridge with the gun set up. It's going to come out. We're going to shoot it. Like there's always a bit, it seems like 9 times out of 10, there's always going to be that like where you have to just go for it. You have to try and make that opportunity happen. So yeah, I'm sure we could sit here and talk all day. All day. Thank you so much for coming. It's been really fun to relive the Elk Clinic and to hear you talk about the hunt again. I remember when you got that email, I literally just texted Alex and was like, this is what it's all about. It's not about how many women sign up to the Elk Clinic. Like, and it's also not just your story, but it's, the other women who showed up to our Elk Clinic and they got out and they had some time in the field this year.
Yes.
That's what it's all about, right? It's about putting yourself in a situation, you're showing up to Elk Clinic all by yourself. You don't know any girls. It's intimidating. You're nervous, but you get there. Energy's great. Learn, you go and you have this hunt. And now from here on out, it's, just keep coming.
And it's nice because now I'm like, oh, I'm going to turkey tactics. And then it's like, someday I'll come learn this. And then I'll learn this skill. And maybe if I don't have an old shoulder, I can like learn archery someday. It's like, but it's really cool to have the Venery community and just to know that it's there and like to have had such a positive experience, because I feel like that was one door and now there's like all these other things to get into and explore. And it makes me much less hesitant to put myself out there with organizations that are focused on women, whether it's hunting or mountain biking or whatever, because the experience of learning with other women is really incredible.
Well, I did have one last question for you, Ashleigh, and it has to do with, so in thinking about women that are considering, women that are just getting to the website, or women that might hear this podcast, this recording on YouTube, what would you want to say to them if they are considering attending Elk Clinic And what's your advice for those participants, right? For those women thinking, oh, I want to get into hunting, just not sure where to start.
Immediately, yes. Like, just go. Because I think, like, the things that you learn as you experience life is like, the box is really comfortable. You know, the box that women that we're put into, that we can exist in. But man, it is really such an incredible way to live, to stop seeing, like, to get out of the box, like to basically just put yourself out there. And I think it's one of those things where, you know, the fear of like, well, what if I'm not good at it? What if I don't like it? Well, you're never going to know unless you just try. And the thing is, you could go to Elk Clinic and you could be like, I love these parts of it. Like maybe like the e-scouting and the field work and like that whole process really resonates with a woman. Or maybe it is more about understanding the animal and learning how to call and taking the shot. But the thing is, it gives you the freedom to make the experience whatever it is that you want, that will serve you. And I just think it's just the best way to live, to put yourself out there and be curious and take the opportunity when it exists, and to just get out of the box. You don't know what you don't know, right? Like, and so it's like one of those things now where I'm like, oh my God, I'm so incredibly grateful that I took that opportunity to put myself out there, because what it has given me in return is such a meaningful way of being able to live and experience nature and the wild, but also to connect with women and a community and other human beings and share in this whole experience. And like, that's what it's all about.
I love that. Thank you, Ashleigh.
All right. With that being said, thank you for all of you guys who tune in and listen to this. If you have questions about Elk Clinic or Venery or any, just leave them in the comments and we will reach back out to you. We'll answer them there so other people can see them. And it's been wonderful, ladies.
Thank you.
Just the final thought is Elk Clinic for 2026 is August 6th through the 9th in Livingston, Montana. And we have registration at venerymt.com. So that's VENERYMT.com.